Yeah. All I need is one mic. Yeah. All I need is one mic.
Hey everybody, welcome back to One Mic, where I watch shit so you don't have to. And today I'm here to talk about Season 5, Episode 1 of Cartoon Network / Adult Swim's Rick and Morty, entitled Mort, Dinner, Rick, Andre. Now, if you're a fan of the show, you know the titles usually kind of like riff off of some sort of concept or popularity, property. This one seems to be based on the movie My Dinner with Andre. They really reached to incorporate the names in this one, but whatever. It doesn't really have any similarities to the film, which is essentially just a conversation. But aside from the dinner aspect, which, in the episode, Rick invites Mr. Nimbus over for dinner to smooth over Morty's mistake. So, enjoyable episode. I think it was a solid season premiere. Pretty solid laughs, pretty solid concepts. Couple of things I'm going to talk about. First off, I want to talk about the different plots that existed in this episode. You have like your A and B plot, which was, I guess technically the A plot would be Rick and Mr. Nimbus and their whole situation. The B plot would be Morty with this Hoovy and his entire world. And then the C plot, I guess, would be kind of Beth and Jerry deciding whether or not they're gonna have this threesome with Mr. Nimbus, which was a completely ridiculous scene, but I feel like mirrors like what actually happens in real life in Hollywood. Like how he winks at them, and then the woman comes up and is like, sign this paperwork saying that, whether or not you're interested in a threesome with Mr. Nimbus. And like, I feel like that happens in real life, where like, maybe not like a wink, but a celebrity might, have interest in someone, and they'll send over like their assistant, like, go tell so-and-so to meet me, tell them where my room is, and, yada, 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 So I feel like that kind of thing happens. But I'm going to get into a little bit of some of the stuff that I like, some of the stuff that I didn't like, and a little bit of thoughts at the end. So one of the things that I like the most is the subplot with Morty and this Hoovy character and his entire ancestral line, I guess if you want to call it. But the concept is essentially that Rick wants Morty to age some wine for Mr. Nimbus to serve to him at this dinner that they're having. And he sends him to this other dimension where time moves differently. Think like Interstellar, right? There's like a scene in Interstellar where they're in like a portion of space where it's like you go out there for 30 minutes, for 10 minutes and 30 years pass by here. Something like that, when they go through like a black hole or something. I don't quite remember Interstellar that well, but I know that was in it. And the same concept here. So they go to take this wine to this other dimension where the time moves faster. And so he comes back and say he's only back for, 10 minutes, but it could have been X amount of years over in this other dimension. So the idea is they're going to just use this other dimension just to age this wine for Mr. Nimbus. And when Morty goes over there the first time, he brings, he goes to drop the wine off. Well, actually, they just throw the wine into the portal. They don't even go to drop it off. When Morty goes to pick it up, this Hoovy character, which I don't even know what animal Hoovy's supposed to be, looked like a dog, but then dogs don't have hooves. Like maybe he's some sort of cow. I think he is actually. I think there was some kind of clue. I feel like there was a clue in his wife's name that made me think that they might be cows, like bovine or something like that. And her name was Bova or so. I can't remember, something like that. But the guy's like, yeah, I'll help you carry this back. And they carry it. He helps them carry the wine back, and they have a conversation kind of about the, how to, I don't know, make your move on the right woman or build a relationship with the right woman, whatever the case may be. Basically, him, Hoovy giving advice to Morty about Jessica. And they're there for maybe like 30 seconds, and he goes back, and now like Hoovy's wife is like dying because he's been gone for so long. His unborn kid is like a teenager / adult and kills him and vows revenge, all this kind of stuff, right? And this continues to play out. And what I liked about this aspect of the storyline is just in typical Rick and Morty fashion, it plays to the farthest of extremes. Like this, Morty comes back and forth with this wine because he's trying to get it for Jessica and Mr. Nimbus. And every time he comes back, there's like generations have gone by. And now Morty has become like this huge devil figure in this world. He's going to come back and we're going to be ready for him. And then they send somebody over there like the Terminator. And it becomes this whole thing where like they don't even, it's like religion. It evolves from, you know, Hoovy coming back and seeing that his wife is aged and then his son or whatever killing him. And it just keeps going to the point where, like, generations down the road, people don't even know if this actually happened or if Morty's even real. And it turns into this whole thing. And Morty like gears up and is like, you know, he goes over there and he gets his ass kicked or something, and he goes back, you know, like, you know what, fuck this. I'm gonna go handle this. I don't know what their problem is. All I did was do something with some wine, but since they want problems, they can have them. And he goes, like, he suits up and he goes over there and he wipes out a bunch of them, and it just turns to a whole thing. And I just love the escalation from something so simple, this, like, these two guys having this simple conversation about relationships, and it evolves into this generational hatred that this civilization forms for Morty. And this kind of plays into two earlier in the episode. You know, Morty says something to Rick to the effect of like why is it always a fight with you? And it's like it shows that no matter how well intentioned you are, which Morty was in this case, he didn't do anything. He, you know, made a friend. Like, this guy Hoovy's real nice. No matter how well intentioned you are, when you're like traveling the universe and going through portals and the different areas of time, you can make enemies no matter what. So I thought that was a pretty cool, I guess, kind of lesson for Morty to learn, assuming that he learned it. So I thought that was really cool, a really cool aspect of the show. One other thing I liked is I liked Mr. Nimbus, and I feel like Mr. Nimbus is gonna be somebody who's largely not gonna be particularly cared about. Like, Mr. Nimbus won't be one of those people who we look back on like the Meeseeks. Like, the Meeseeks are fucking legendary. Like, I don't think we're gonna look at Mr. Nimbus like that, at least not now. If he makes recurring appearances, maybe, but I liked Mr. Nimbus just because of the randomness of Mr. Nimbus. Like, he made no sense, and I think that's what made him so entertaining to me. Like, one, he's incredibly flamboyant, complete opposite of everything about him is the complete opposite of Rick. Completely flamboyant, way over the top, completely sexually fluid, which I don't know. You know, he kind of implies that Rick, that he smashed Rick before too, but you know, totally all over the place, willing to have sex with both Jerry and Beth. And then for some reason he can control the police. Like, like the randomness of him I found to be really entertaining. So I enjoy Mr. Nimbus. I feel like a lot of people probably won't, but I don't know, his sassiness, like the way he, like when he was controlling the police the first time and he's like telling them to fight, then he's telling them to fuck, and he's like doing these thrusts and shit. Like, I don't know. I thought Mr. Nimbus was funny. I liked how Morty has become, and I've talked about this in the Morty subplot, how Morty's become a little bit more assertive. You know, throughout his adventures of Rick, he's with Rick, he's become less passive and a little bit more aggressive. Like, he didn't go to Rick like, hey, these guys keep fucking with me. He just opened up this spot in the garage, like, yo, get my stuff and I'm gonna go over there and fuck y'all up. And I thought that was kind of cool that Morty's like matured to that point. One of the things that I didn't like, actually it's the only thing that I didn't like, is I feel like this episode didn't have as many laughs as I would be accustomed to. It just had a couple of one-liners. Like, I liked how after, I'm trying to remember what point in the episode this was, but I think, you know, once they've already established that Morty and Hoovy have gotten to this whole thing, you know, I think this is when they had set Morty up. Like, whenever he comes back, we got this trap for him, and Morty barely escapes, and he lays it out to Rick what's going on, and Rick just goes like, "You had to touch the ocean, didn't you?" And I thought that was a nice little line. And then when Morty was fighting one of these generational clones of Hoovy, and like he kicks him in the nuts, he's just like, why did I clone myself genitals? Like, I always like things like that where it's like, why would you do that? And like, you know, from my perspective, I could definitely see why you would give yourself genitals, but you know, in the moment when you're getting hit in the balls, kind of like, well, maybe I didn't have to give myself, I don't know, balls or whatever. But I thought that was cool. So before I wrap up, a couple more thoughts. I like the fact that Jessica's now like a time god. Like, she got sucked into the portal. She ends up like suspended in time or something like that. She stabs one of these Hoovy descendants, and ultimately comes back and is just like, yeah, you know, I've kind of like seen all of time and everything, and I think me and you should just be friends, Morty. And it's like, man, after he finally got to kiss her and stuff, and I feel like that got downplayed a little bit. That's a big deal for Morty to finally reach first base with Jessica. So I thought they downplayed that, and I also wonder if this is going to continue. Like, are we going to continue to have Jessica pop up and be weird? Is she going to continue to be weird, or are things going to like be reset after this episode? I wonder the same thing about Rick. Like, you know, he gets taken to jail at the end of this episode because Mr. Nimbus controls the police for whatever reason. And Oh, yeah, is the next episode going to open with Rick in jail, or is things going to be back to normal? Like, I never really know how these things are going to play out. Like The Simpsons, for instance. Like, things don't persist in The Simpsons. You know, something happens and then it's essentially reset in the next episode. I like the fact that even though Mr. Nimbus seemed like a unworthy nemesis for Rick, even by Jerry standards, like who is Jerry to call out the intimidation factor of someone else? But even though Mr. Nimbus does not seem like he would be a proper nemesis for Rick, Rick keeps calling him like an ice cold dick killer and like weird names like that to make it really badass. And I mean, at the end of the day, he won out. Like, you know, Rick sits Summer to get this horn that's supposed to stop him, and then she blows the horn and it just makes him stronger. It's like, what the fuck? Like, what can he? He's like, you're supposed to break the horn, and it turns into this whole thing, and he ends up getting Rick arrested through his control of the police. So, yeah, really fun time. So, the only other thing that I wanted to talk about, which I found interesting, but I'm not concerned about because I do feel like this is going to be something that's going to be recurring, is that we kind of closed out last season with the idea of like, is this our Beth or is this the Beth clone? And they didn't touch on that at all in this premiere, which I found to be a little odd, but I'm confident that this is something that will be revisited. And then I don't know, I'm still kind of unsure on how I would feel if it is not, but this doesn't strike me as the kind of show to have something that big and that interesting and just not touch on it again. So I imagine this will come up again at some point during the season, but I don't, you know, I'm a little surprised it didn't come up in this first episode, but I do expect to get there at some point. So let's see. I talked about the Morty and Hoovy plot. Jerry and Beth deciding that they might want to have this threesome with Mr. Nimbus because they're sex positive or something like that. I found that to be moderately interesting. I don't particularly care what happens there. And then the Rick versus Mr. Nimbus, like I said, Mr. Nimbus was incredibly entertaining to me out of his sheer randomness. I thought, you know, the fact that Rick claimed him as a nemesis, I found interesting too. Like that's almost like Rick admitting that this actually, there's no almost, it is Rick admitting that this guy is on level with me. And you don't see that level of humility or intimidation from Rick ever. So like the idea that he's that intimidated by Mr. Nimbus that he's like aging wine in another dimension and sending Summer and not Morty to get this shell and all, you know, getting all hyped up over this dinner. Like it really sets the tone for what kind of levels of extremity that Mr. Nimbus has exhibited over time. And then we also find out that Mr. Nimbus knows about his past. He knows about his ex-wife apparently, some other kid that maybe Rick was using in a Morty capacity prior to Morty. I think he said his name was Kyle or something. Like, these are interesting things that I wonder if they're going to come back up, or these just like little tidbits that they're just dropping in this premiere for fun. But I'm a big fan of Rick and Morty, so I will be covering this week to week. So I will see you guys next week for episode 2. I figure they'll probably have a break at some point, you know, do 5, break, do the next 5 after that. But I'll be here for all 10 episodes. So I'll see you guys next week. Peace.